Hello and welcome back. My name is Venus Green. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to be talking about the second half of July in this video. Now, the Cancer new moon brought us back to what feels emotionally true. It asks us to consider what needs care, what needs protection, and what kind of foundation we are trying to create as we move forward. Now, as we move into the second half of July, the question begins to change. Once you know what matters, what are you prepared to do with that knowledge? And this is the part of the month that has more outward-facing quality. Mercury is still direct in Cancer for a few more days, so reflection and revision are still part of the story for sure. But at the same time, the larger astrology begins pointing us toward action, visibility, direction, and the future that we are helping to shape. So the theme of this forecast is more about choosing the future. It does not mean that every answer is available to us yet. It means, though, that we are reaching a point where the choices are more clear. So where do you want to direct your energy? What do you want to build? What kind of contribution feels more honest to you now? And what might need to change in the way that you lead yourself so that you can move forward in this manner? Now, the middle of July is going to bring several outer planet aspects that speak to the bigger changes that are taking place beneath the surface. On July 15th, Mars in Gemini is going to sextile Neptune in Aries. Then on the 18th of the month, Uranus is going to trine Pluto in Aquarius. Now, these are longer-term influences. They describe shifts in how we think, communicate, organize, connect, and what we imagine is possible in our life. Uranus in Gemini is going to bring some movement through information, learning, media, technology, also transportation and networks. And Neptune in Aries brings questions about vision, identity, courage, and the ideals that motivate us. Pluto in Aquarius continues to expose where collective systems, communities, and power structures need to evolve. So together, these transits are going to suggest that many people are beginning to recognize that the old ways of thinking or operating are no longer going to be enough for what's coming ahead. So you're going to see this first through new ideas, changes in direction, and unexpected conversation, right? Could be this growing interest in something that's unfamiliar to you. Could also be a realization that your current path needs some more room for experimentation. There is a strong invitation here to remain teachable, because the next chapter probably doesn't look exactly like what you were expecting to write. On July 19th, Mars in Gemini is going to make a sextile to Saturn in Aries. So this is one of the most useful transits of this month. Mars in Gemini can bring a lot of movement mentally, right? There might be multiple ideas, conversations, lots of options, or just responsibilities that are competing for your attention. Saturn in Aries asks you to get clear about what deserves follow through, right? What are you willing to commit to? What needs a plan? What deserves more discipline or patience or structure in your life? This is a very supportive time for taking some practical steps towards those things that have been developing in your mind. So you may not have every detail figured out. You probably are still gathering some information, but you do know enough to begin creating some momentum around that thing. That could mean that you are setting a boundary, you are creating a new routine, maybe you are beginning a project, maybe you're organizing the next steps, right? Or you're just having some conversation that helps to move something forward. This transit is going to remind us that good ideas become more powerful when we are willing to give it form. The astrology becomes more pronounced between July 20th and 21st. Jupiter in Leo is going to be making a trine to Neptune in Aries. It's also going to be opposing Pluto, and then it's going to be making a sextile to Uranus in Gemini. So this is that basket shape that we're dealing with for most of the month. Jupiter in Leo wants to expand confidence, creativity, joy, courage, leadership, and self-expression. It can help us to recognize where we are ready to take ourselves more seriously. You might be thinking about where you're ready to create something, where you're ready to be seen, and what is asking you for a little bit more heart energy and belief. Now, the trine to Neptune is going to bring some inspiration and this renewed sense of possibility. So it can help us to reconnect with a vision, with faith, with imagination, and the part of ourselves that still believes something meaningful can be built. And the opposition to Pluto is going to add some depth to that story. It can bring questions around power, influence, leadership, control, resources, and whose voice gets prioritized. So you might become more aware of where someone else's expectations have really shaped your choices. You might recognize where fear of being judged has kept you from taking up space. You might also be seeing a little bit more clearly that visibility carries some responsibility with it, right? The way that we use our voice, influence, creativity, and leadership truly does matter. Then Jupiter's sextile to Uranus is going to open the door for new possibilities. There's an unexpected conversation that might lead somewhere very useful. Maybe it's a new idea that creates some momentum. Maybe it's a different approach, and that different approach will reveal an opportunity that you didn't really see earlier in the month. So staying connected to your values as you move through this energy is very important. Confidence is most useful when it's grounded, and vision becomes more powerful when it has a purpose. Now, on July 22nd, the sun is going to move into Leo. So Cancer season really helped us to reconnect with the heart. Leo season is going to ask us to express what we found there. So this is where the month begins moving from private reflection into greater visibility, creativity, courage, and self-trust. Leo asks, what are you ready to stand behind? What are you ready to create? What deserves more of your attention? Where are you ready to show up more fully in your own life? Healthy Leo energy is not about performing for approval. It's about becoming more present with your own gifts, desires, perspective, and creative authority. So after a month of revising assumptions and reconsidering emotional narratives, Leo season can really help us to move forward with this stronger sense of what we need to contribute. On July 23rd, Mercury is going to station direct in Cancer at 16 degrees. So this begins that gradual return of forward movement. Start to take a little bit of shape. You might understand the emotional meaning behind a situation more clearly than you did before. Mercury remains in its post-retrograde shadow until August 6th. So there is still this period of integration. While some information might continue unfolding, conversations might still need to be revisited until this time, and plans can still require a little bit of adjustment. But the direction begins to change. Because this retrograde has been in Cancer, many people have been reviewing themes around home, family, belonging, emotional security, memories. It's the stories that we tell ourselves about our past. Mercury direct helps us to begin carrying that understanding forward. And the goal is to move ahead with some greater awareness of what actually matters. Then on July 26th, this is one of the more important days of the month for sure. The North Node enters Aquarius and the South Node enters Leo. Saturn is also going to be stationing retrograde in Aries. Until now, the Pisces Virgo nodal axis has been asking us to work with relationships between faith and discernment, surrender and control, compassion, and practical responsibility. On July 26th, that collective storyline is going to shift. The North Node in Aquarius places greater emphasis on community, network, innovation, technology, social systems, and the future that we're trying to build together. The South Node in Leo asks us to pay attention to our relationship with recognition, pride, visibility, and personal identity. Leo is still important. Jupiter and the Sun are both moving through Leo, and creative self-expression remains a central part of this month. The difference is that the question becomes larger. How does your individual vision connect with something that's beyond yourself? How are you participating in community? What kinds of relationships and systems or spaces are you investing in? What future are you helping to create through the choices that you make every single day? At the same time, Saturn stationing retrograde in Aries is going to ask us to reassess how we take action. It wants us to become more intentional with our courage, more disciplined with our energy, more accountable with the direction that we choose. So this can be a meaningful period for reviewing what kind of leadership you are willing to offer in your own life. Now, the final days of July are going to bring that Leo Aquarius storyline into a sharper focus. On July 27th, the Sun in Leo opposes Pluto in Aquarius while also trining Neptune and sextiling Uranus. So this is going to bring a powerful mix of inspiration, visibility, creative possibility, unexpected openings, but also deeper questions around power and control. You may feel called to speak up. You might want to create something new. You may be trying to make a decision or just show more courage in an area where you have held back previously. At the same time, this astrology asks us to stay aware of the larger context. Personal expression does matter, but so does the effect that our choices have on the people and the communities around us. Then on the 29th of July, the Sun is going to meet Jupiter in Leo as that full moon arrives in Aquarius. We are going to go deeper into the full moon in its own separate video, but it is important because this is a culmination point for this month. The Sun in Jupiter is going to expand confidence, creativity, enthusiasm, and the desire to move forward. That Aquarius full moon is going to bring this wider picture into view, and it asks us to consider how our personal choices, our leadership, our creativity, and voice connect to the future that we're helping to shape together. So the first half of July really asks us to adapt. We have the Cancer new moon, which asked us to reconnect with what matters to us. And the second half of July is going to ask us to choose how we want to participate in what comes next. Do you need a perfect plan? No. Do you need to have every answer to make this new beginning? No. But this is a very meaningful time to become more honest about what you want to build, what you want to contribute, and what deserves your energy as you move forward. The future is not an abstract idea, right? It's shaped through our conversations, our choices, our communities, our creativity, and the courage we bring to the life that we are creating. Now let's move into the rising signs. For Aries Rising, the second half of July is going to move you from private reflection into a more creative, expressive, and future-facing part of your life. Mercury is going to station direct in your fourth house. So something that you've been processing privately might begin to make a little more sense around that time. Conversations around family, living situations, responsibilities at home. It's your sense of belonging. Those things can start to move forward, even though the full picture is probably going to continue to unfold until those first few days of August. Now, as the Sun joins Jupiter in Leo, that's going to activate your fifth house. So this is going to bring more energy toward creativity, joy, romance, children, self-expression. It's all of the parts of your life that help you feel more alive. Now, you may feel ready to take a creative idea a little more seriously around this time. You might share something that you've been holding back. You could also make more space for things like pleasure and personal expression in your life. Jupiter's opposition to Pluto in your 11th house is going to bring your friendships, your collaborations, your long-term goals into the conversations that you're having. You may notice where group dynamics, social expectations, or future plans no longer support the person that you are trying to become after all of this reflection. So this can be a useful time to get clearer about the communities that you want to invest in and the kinds of connections that genuinely support your growth. On the 26th of July, the North Node is going to enter your 11th house. That's community, networks, future direction, while the South Node is going to move into your 5th house. So this begins a longer cycle here of learning how to connect your individual gifts with something larger than yourself. Your creativity still matters, but the focus begins shifting toward where it can be shared, supported, and maybe made more meaningful through the right people and the right spaces. Well, Saturn's going to station retrograde in your 1st house, so that is also going to be asking you to review how you are leading yourself. Where do you need some more discipline in your life? Where do you maybe need to add some more patience, or maybe just focus on confidence in your own direction? What would it look like to you if you take yourself a little more seriously without feeling like you need everyone else to validate the path that you're on? Well, by the time we get to the Aquarius full moon at the end of the month, there can be this greater clarity around your friendships, your communities, and your future plans. So the larger focus here is really finding the right spaces, people, and long-term vision for what it is that you have to offer. Good luck to you, Aries. For Taurus Rising, the second half of July brings stronger attention to your relationship between your private foundations and your public direction. Mercury stations direct in your 3rd house, so that's communications, plans, messages, schedules, it's everyday decisions. And conversations that have felt delayed or maybe unclear are likely to begin moving forward. So you might also find it easier to organize your thoughts, say what needs to be said, or maybe make some practical decisions that have been sitting in review. As the sun joins Jupiter in Leo, your 4th house is going to be more active. So home, family, living arrangements, your private life might be asking for some more attention here. And you may feel motivated to create some greater comfort, maybe make some changes in your environment, or maybe just reconnect with what helps you to feel more rooted and supported in your life. At the same time, Jupiter's opposition to Pluto in your 10th house is going to bring some career, reputation, leadership, or maybe long-term direction conversations into the mix for you. You may become more aware of where your professional path is asking for some bigger decisions. Probably some questions around authority, visibility, ambition. It's the balance between work and personal life maybe that is becoming a little bit harder for you to ignore. On July 22nd, the North Node is going to enter your 10th house. So that's career, purpose, public contribution. The South Node is going to enter your 4th house. And this is going to begin a longer cycle here of growth around the role that you want to play in the world. Your foundations still matter very deeply, but this shift is going to ask you to build a public direction that is supported by the life that you're creating behind the scenes. Well, Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 12th house, and that'll ask for some honest reflection around what has been probably quietly taking up some emotional or mental space for you. Pay attention to things like avoidance, unspoken fears, maybe old burdens that are creeping into your thoughts, responsibilities that may need some clearer boundaries around this time. Rest and reflection are a part of preparing for the direction that's beginning to emerge for you. By the time we get to that Aquarius full moon at the end of the month, there can be some greater clarity around your career or the goals that you want to work toward. The larger question here is what kind of public direction feels worth building when it's supported by a private life that genuinely sustains you. Good luck to you, Taurus. Gemini Rising, the second half of July begins to bring greater movement around money, self-worth, and the practical choices that support the life that you're trying to build. Mercury stations direct in your 2nd house, so that's income, resources, skills, and personal stability. Now, since Mercury rules your chart, this shift is probably going to feel especially personal to you. Could be a financial question, some work-related conversations, a plan, some sort of decision that has been under review. It's going to start to move forward now. Now, you may also gain more clarity around what your time and energy and your abilities are worth and what you need in order to feel secure in your direction. As the sun joins with Jupiter in Leo, your third house is going to be more active. So this can bring some momentum through conversations, writing, speaking, learning, maybe local connections that you are making. But it's the way that you share your ideas. You may feel more ready to say what it is that you mean. You might be pursuing some idea. You might be promoting something that you've been working on. Maybe you're just becoming more visible in your immediate environment. Now, Jupiter's opposition to Pluto in your ninth house is going to bring this larger question into the picture. What beliefs, goals, or long-range vision are guiding the choices that you are making every day? You may feel pulled between what is familiar and what is calling you to grow beyond your current perspective. You might be thinking about doing some additional education. You might be trying to teach. You might want to travel. Could be about some spiritual development for you. There's a bigger life direction that's trying to become more important. On July 26th, the North Node is going to enter your ninth house and the South Node will be moving into your third house. So this begins a longer cycle of growth around expanding your worldview, trusting your deeper perspective, and really moving toward expressions that broaden your understanding of life. So your voice still matters, but the focus is going to begin to shift away from letting constant information, familiar routines, or maybe just everyday urgency determine your direction. Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 11th house. So that's going to be asking you to review your friendships, your collaborations, your networks, and your future goals. You might need to become more selective about the groups that you invest in and the commitments that you make to others. The right community can really help support the direction that you're trying to create. Then when we get to the Aquarius full moon at the end of the month, there can be this greater clarity around your long-term path, your beliefs, and the wider world that you want to participate in. The larger question here is whether your everyday choices are helping you move toward that life, that new perspective, that future that feels more meaningful to you. So I'd take a look at that. Good luck to you, Gemini. For Cancer Rising, the second half of July is going to bring the focus back to you. Mercury is going to station direct in your first house, so that's going to begin to clear some of that uncertainty that you've been feeling around your identity, priorities, energy, and the way that you want to move forward. Now, you might feel more able to name the things that you need now. You might be trying to communicate your perspective a little bit differently. You might also be making a decision that has been developing internally. Now, Jupiter is already moving through your second house. So when the sun enters Leo on the 22nd, those themes are going to become more active. Themes of income, resources, and self-worth. You might feel like you are ready to invest more seriously in something that you value. You might be asking for what it is you feel like you're worth. You might become clearer about where your time and energy are going. Jupiter's opposition to Pluto in your 8th house is going to bring shared resources, agreements, your emotional entanglements. It's the power dynamics that you have. Those things are going to be coming into the picture. And this can reveal where the financial or emotional entanglements might need some greater honesty. You might be considering what kind of support is available to you. You might be thinking about what responsibilities are truly shared between you and another. You might also be trying to figure out where some clear boundaries would help create more stability. Then on the 26th of July, the North Node is going to move into your 8th house. The South Node will be entering your 2nd house. So this is going to begin that longer cycle of growth around trust, intimacy, and shared resources. You are trying to learn how to receive support without losing your sense of self. So your own values and resources are going to remain very important, while the path ahead is going to be asking you to consider where mutual investment and collaboration, or maybe just some deeper connection with another, might be part of your growth. Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 10th house. So career, leadership, public direction, those things are going to be coming into view now. And this is going to be a productive time to consider whether your professional responsibilities and the definition of success you have are actually sustainable for what you want to build. And then by the time we get to that Aquarius full moon at the end of the month, there can be some greater clarity around maybe a financial, emotional, or some sort of relational dynamic that needs to be acknowledged with more honesty. The larger question here is how to build greater security while you are allowing yourself to participate in relationships and opportunities that require trust, reciprocity, and probably shared responsibility from you. Good luck to you, Cancer. For Leo Rising, the second half of July is going to bring more energy, visibility, and momentum back into your life. Mercury is going to station direct in your 12th house, and that can bring this gradual sense of clarity around something that you have been trying to process behind the scenes or privately. Rest, emotional healing, boundaries, old patterns, or maybe just some concerns that you've not really been ready or willing to speak about are going to begin to make some more sense to you. Give yourself some room to understand what has been shifting beneath the surface before you decide what needs to be shared. Now, Jupiter's already moving through Leo. The Sun is going to join up with Jupiter in your first house on the 22nd of July. So this definitely brings more attention to your identity, your confidence, your appearance, right? Your personal goals. It's the way that you want to show up in the world. So you could feel more ready to take up some space. You might begin some sort of personal project. You might be sharing your ideas. You might also be moving forward with just this new level of trust in yourself. Jupiter is going to make this opposition to Pluto in your 7th house. So relationships, clients, agreements, collaborations, power dynamics. Those things are going to enter the conversation. You might become more aware of where expectations have become uneven, where maybe some clearer terms are needed in relationships, or possibly just where a relationship could benefit from a greater level of honesty. This can also open up important opportunities through partnerships when both people have the room to contribute fully. On the 26th of July, the North Node is going to move into your 7th house and the South Node into your 1st house. So this really begins this longer cycle of growth around things like cooperation, reciprocity. It's learning how to build with others. Your individual vision is going to remain important. This cycle is going to be asking you to balance strong self-direction within your relationships and ones that offer you mutual respect, shared effort, and just a genuine level of support. Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 9th house. So here you're going to be taking some review on the larger beliefs that you have, maybe your long-term plans, possibly travel that you have planned. It's your sense of purpose in the 9th house here. So you might be reconsidering what it is that you truly believe in and whether your current choices reflect the future that you want to grow toward. Now, by the time we get to the end of the month at the Aquarius full moon, there can be this greater clarity around an important relationship or an agreement. Maybe it's a client connection or possibly just this recurring pattern that you notice in your partnerships. The larger question here is how do you remain fully yourself while creating relationships with honesty and depth so that you can grow alongside those relationships? Best of luck to you, Leo. For Virgo Rising, the second half of July is going to bring more movement through friendships, collaborations, and the future goals that are connected to your larger direction. Now, Mercury is going to station direct in your 11th house. So it's going to be helping the conversations around community, group projects, your friendships or networks, maybe your long-term plans. Those things are going to begin to move forward again. Now, since Mercury rules both your chart and your career sector, this can also bring some greater clarity around which connections or collaborative opportunities are going to be supportive of the direction that you want to take professionally. Jupiter moving through your 12th house is going to meet with the sun on the 22nd of July. So this can really increase the need for rest, privacy, some spiritual renewal, right? It's time away from the constant demands of your life. And you might be preparing for something important behind the scenes. You could be developing a private project. You might just be recognizing that more quiet is what is needed before you are able to decide what the next thing actually is. With Jupiter's opposition to Pluto in your 6th house, that's going to bring daily work, responsibilities, routines. All of those things are going to come into focus for you. So you're probably going to become more aware of where your schedule or your work environment or your everyday obligations really need to change on some level. And this can actually be a useful period for creating systems that protect your energy and make your goals more sustainable. On the 26th, the North Node is going to move into your 6th house and the South Node will enter your 12th house. So this is going to begin a longer cycle here, but it's around growth of work, service, routines, and the habits that help to shape your daily life. So rest and spiritual connection will remain a part of the picture, while the path ahead is going to be asking you to find more intention around the practical choices that shape your days. Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 8th house. So that will ask for reflection around your shared resources, your financial agreements, also trust, right? It's the responsibilities that you carry with others. Clearer expectations or maybe a more balanced responsibility can help you to create some greater stability in your life. And then by the time we get to that Aquarius full moon, there can be this greater clarity around your workload, your work dynamics, the routines that you keep. It's the systems that you're taking a look at here that might need to change. The larger question is how to create a daily life that gives your goals, your energy, and deeper purpose some room to grow. Good luck to you, Virgo. For Libra Rising, the second half of July brings more movement around career, visibility, friendships, and the future direction that you are building there. Now, Mercury will station direct in your 10th house. So a professional conversation, maybe some decisions about a role. It could also be just long-term plans that you're thinking about. Those things that have been under review are going to begin to move forward. You might also gain a clearer sense of what you want to be known for and where you need to be more direct about your goals. Now, the future picture may continue unfolding until the early days of August here, but your direction can really begin to feel more defined around this time. Jupiter's already moving through your 11th house, so the sun's going to join up with him on the 22nd of July. So this can really bring some greater energy toward your friendships, your networks, your community. So you may feel more connected to people who share your interest or maybe more motivated to put some energy into a goal that is going to need support from others. Jupiter's opposition to Pluto will be in your 5th house. So that's creativity, romance, children. Those things are going to come into the conversation for you. You might become more aware of where your group expectations or maybe the opinions of others have had too much influence over what you feel inspired to create. So this can be a useful time for you to reconnect with what feels personally meaningful and allow your own creativity to have a voice and to have that voice have a little more weight. On the 26th, the North Node is going to move into the 5th house. The South Node will be entering your 11th house. This begins a much larger cycle of growth around creative expression, joy, romance, courage. And your community is going to remain very important during this time, but the new cycle is going to be asking you to make some more room for your desires, for your talents, for the experiences that really help you feel fully alive. Then Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 7th house. So this will be asking you to review your relationships, your business partnerships, the commitments that you have made to others, right? It's the expectations that you share with other people. Now, clear boundaries, honest communication, or maybe some realistic agreements are really going to help to create partnerships that are more stable and more mutually supportive for you. At the end of the month, we're going to have the Aquarius full moon. So there can be this greater clarity around a creative project, maybe a romantic situation. Could also be your relationship with children, right? There's a pattern of looking outside of yourself here for approval. So the larger question is really asking you to do your best to stay connected to community while also giving your own desires and gifts and creative direction the space that they deserve. Good luck to you, Libra. For Scorpio Rising, the second half of July is going to bring more movement around your long-term direction, your career, and the private foundation that's supporting the life that you're building. Well, Mercury is going to station direct in your 9th house. This is the house of beliefs, education, travel, spirituality, is really your larger sense of purpose. A question that you have been sitting with about where you're headed is probably going to begin to feel a little clearer around this time. So you might be ready to make a decision about learning. Maybe you are trying to share your knowledge in some way. Maybe you're learning to trust a perspective that has been developing over the past few weeks. Jupiter is moving through your 10th house. It's going to join up with the sun on the 22nd. So this can bring greater attention to your career, leadership, reputation, right? It's the role that you want to play publicly. You might feel more ready to take your ambitions seriously. You might be stepping into a more visible position around this time. You could just be putting some energy behind a professional goal that really matters to you. Jupiter's opposition to Pluto in your 4th house is going to bring this relationship between career and private life into sharper focus. Work demands, family responsibilities, living arrangements, right? The emotional needs are going to be asking for some more honest attention from you. This can also bring a deeper realization about what kind of success really feels like it's worth building when you consider this life that you want to live that's behind the scenes. On the 26th, the North Node is going to enter your 4th house and the South Node into your 10th house. So this begins a longer cycle here of growth around home, family, and emotional foundations, right? It's your belonging, and it's the private life that really supports everything else in your life. So career and public contribution are going to matter during this time, but the new cycle is really asking you to strengthen the root that's beneath all of your ambitions. Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 6th house. So work, habits, responsibilities, routines, all of those things are coming into view. And this is going to be a really useful time to look honestly at whether your schedule is sustainable or whether your everyday effort is really supporting the goals that you're trying to reach. By the Aquarius full moon at the end of the month, there can be greater clarity around home, family, and work-life balance. There could also just be an emotional pattern that's showing up that's going to need some more attention from you. The larger question is how to create enough support for your public ambitions and your private needs so that they strengthen one another. Good luck to you, Scorpio. For Sagittarius Rising, the second half of July is going to bring greater movement around trust, shared resources, long-term direction, and the way that you communicate what you are learning. Mercury is going to station direct in your 8th house. So a situation involving money, trust, responsibilities, or maybe expectations within an important relationship are going to begin to feel clearer for you. Now, you may gain some more insight into what needs to be discussed openly, maybe where some stronger boundaries or maybe more balanced support would help to create some better stability for you. Jupiter's already moving through your 9th house. Sun's going to join up with him on the 22nd, and this is going to bring more energy toward education, topics of travel or teaching, your belief system. It's the larger vision that is really helping to guide your life in this house. So you might feel ready to pursue a bigger goal. You might be sharing what you know. You might be expanding your perspective in some way. You might also just be taking an opportunity that really helps you to grow beyond your usual environment. And Jupiter's opposition to Pluto is going to be in your 3rd house. So conversations, maybe ideas, a message, something is going to shift in perspective, and that may carry more weight for you than you expected. And you might also be recognizing where an old way of thinking really needs to evolve so that your day-to-day choices better reflect what it is that you believe. On the 22nd, the North Node is going to move into your 3rd house. South Node will enter your 9th house. This begins a larger cycle of growth around the topics of communication, speaking, learning, your local connections. It's the everyday exchanges that really help to shape the path that you're on. And your broader vision is going to remain important for sure, but the focus now turns toward making that vision useful, understandable, and present in the life that you're living every day. Well, Saturn is going to station retrograde in your 5th house, so that brings joy, romance, children, all of those things into view. So you might be reconsidering what it is that genuinely makes you feel alive, where you have maybe a creative project or a passion or some sort of desire that's going to need some more time, structure, or commitment from you. And then at the end of the month, we're going to have the Aquarius full moon. So there can be this greater clarity around maybe an important conversation, maybe a learning process or a writing project that you're working on, right? There's this way that you want to use your voice. Now, the larger question is going to be, how do you bring your beliefs and your vision and this deeper knowledge that you have into your everyday life so that you can begin to actively create? Best of luck to you, Sagittarius. For Capricorn Rising, the second half of July brings a clearer conversation between your relationships, shared responsibilities, your personal security. Well, Mercury is going to station direct in your 7th house. So a discussion or maybe a decision that has felt delayed is probably going to begin moving forward around this time. You might be gaining some more clarity about what needs to be said, what an important relationship requires, or maybe just where expectations need to be more clearly defined in relationships. Now, Jupiter is already moving through your 8th house. The sun's going to meet up with him there on the 22nd. This is going to bring some greater attention to shared finances, trust, emotional vulnerability, and the responsibilities that you carry with others. And you might be thinking more seriously about an investment, maybe debts that you have or shared expenses with another. Or maybe it's just the kind of emotional exchange that really feels sustainable in a close relationship. Jupiter's opposition to Pluto is from your 2nd house, so that brings personal resources, income, self-worth, all of those things come into sharper focus now. So you might become more aware of where financial or emotional arrangements need a greater level of balance. Saturn stationing retrograde in the 4th house asks you to review home, family, emotional roots, and the responsibilities that you carry privately. So you might need to consider whether your personal life is really providing enough support for the goals that you're trying to build. Creating stronger boundaries or maybe a more sustainable home rhythm can really be part of the work that's happening here. Well, by the Aquarius full moon at the end of the month, there can be a greater clarity around money, self-worth, resources, or just a practical choice that's affecting your long-term stability. So the question is how to build greater security from within while also creating healthier, more balanced agreements with others. Good luck to you, Capricorn. For Aquarius Rising, the second half of July brings the focus back to your identity, direction, relationships, and the way that you want to move through the world. Mercury stations direct in your 6th house, so this is about work, routines, and responsibilities. A practical issue involving either your schedule, your workload, or maybe your work environment is probably going to begin moving forward again around this time. And you may also gain more clarity around what needs to change for your everyday life in order for you to feel better supported with your energy and your priorities. Now, Jupiter is in the 7th house, and the sun's going to meet up with him there on the 22nd. So that's going to put more attention to your relationships, your clients, agreements, your collaborations. It's all of your one-on-one connections. Now, you might feel more open to partnership around this time. You might feel more visible through your work or through other people, or maybe just more aware of the role that an important relationship is playing in your direction. Jupiter is going to oppose Pluto in your first house, so that's going to bring your identity, your personal power, and boundaries into sharper focus for you. You might become more aware of where relationships have required too much compromise, maybe where expectations need to become clearer, or where you need to take your own needs a little more seriously. Well, this can also bring meaningful growth through partnerships when both people have some room to be honest and fully present in the relationship. On the 26th, the North Node is going to move into your first house and the South Node is going to enter your seventh. So this is going to bring a larger cycle around growth of self-definition, independence, confidence, and really trusting your own direction. Relationships still matter very deeply, but the new chapter is going to ask you to notice where your identity may have become overly shaped by someone else's expectations or needs or approval. And you might choose partnerships that support you rather than overshadow your path. Well, Saturn's going to station retrograde in your third house. So this is communications, learning, and it's your local responsibilities. Now, since Saturn is your traditional ruler, this review is probably going to feel especially connected to your personal direction. It's important here to slow down where you need to refine your message and to become more intentional about the conversations and the commitments that shape your life. And then at the end of the month, we're going to have the Aquarius full moon. There can be some greater clarity for you around your identity at this time, right? Your personal direction, maybe boundaries, could also be an important relationship dynamic. The larger question here is how to remain open to connection while also building a life that really reflects your own values, your own voice, and your sense of purpose. By the time we get to the end of the month, we have the Aquarius full moon, and there can be this greater clarity around your identity, your personal direction, boundaries. For Pisces Rising, the second half of July brings more movement around creativity, daily responsibilities, rest, and the balance between what you're doing outwardly and what you need privately. Mercury stations retrograde in your fifth house. Something that you have been reconsidering around maybe a creative project, a personal desire, possibly a relationship, or the way that you want to share yourself may begin moving forward around this time. You might feel clearer about what makes you feel alive and what deserves more of your attention. Jupiter and the Sun are going to meet up in your sixth house on the 22nd, so daily demands are going to become more visible. You might be taking a look at opportunities that help to build skills, maybe organize your time, or maybe just create some routines that better support the larger goals you have in mind. Now, because Jupiter rules your chart, the changes that you make in your work, responsibilities, and everyday structure can really have a direct effect on your energy, your confidence, and your ability to move forward. Jupiter will be opposing Pluto in your 12th house, so this is going to bring the relationship between daily effort and private restoration into sharper focus for you. You might become really been taking up too much of your inner space. And this can also reveal the behind the scenes pattern or fear or possibly a habit that you have that needs a little bit more honesty and attention before you're able to continue. Now on the 26th, the North Node is going to enter your 12th house and the South Node will enter your 6th house. This is going to begin a larger cycle of growth around rest, spiritual renewal, privacy, closure, your intuition, and just the work that happens away from the public view. So your responsibilities definitely still matter during this time, but the new cycle is going to ask you to make some room for reflection and replenishment and the inner life that really helps you to sustain everything else. Now, Saturn will station retrograde in your second house. So this can bring a review of how you're building security for yourself, and you may need to become more realistic about where your energy is going, maybe about what you are willing to invest in, and maybe even what practical structures would help you to feel more supported over time. And at the end of the month, we're going to have the Aquarius full moon. So there can be a greater clarity around rest, private matters, emotional boundaries, right? A hidden source of pressure that you have, something that needs some closure before the next chapter begins. Now, the larger question here is, how do you create a daily life that allows you to be useful and productive while also protecting the quiet space that you need in order to be able to hear yourself clearly? Good luck to you, Pisces.